So our next panel is around trust economy and empowering communities through business and culture. And so, so quite a bit to pull in from our last conversation into this one. I'll be super brief in my introductions because I know we took a little extra time. So thank you all for waiting. For anyone who joined over the last hour or so, welcome to the world's first really Indo-Pak Peace Summit, completely led by women. So we're in for a treat. I'll give brief introductions of our moderator and our panelist. So Sonya, really great to have you here. Sonya Rehman is an art and cultural journalist. She's also the founder of the platform that I know actually was mentioned earlier from Lahore with Love. So really nice to have you here, Sonya. And then also warm welcome to Anshu. Really great to have you here, Anshu. Anshu is an award-winning founder of the Royal Fables exposition. Avni Sethi, so nice to have you here. I know you are an interdisciplinary artist, and also I'm just so excited to hear more about the Conflictorium Museum that you founded to explore the tension and connection between people across the region through interactive art. So such a great voice to bring in. Reema Abbasi, good to have you here. You're glowing behind you. And for those of you who aren't already familiar with Reema's work, Reema is a senior sociopolitical journalist and author, a peace and human rights activist coming out of the Pakistani context. Sanya Dhir, so good to have you. And I know you're a creative director of a beautiful fashion label. Diva'ni, it spans India, Pakistan, Dubai, I know further, so it's really interesting insights from you about kind of business as a force for reaching across borders. And I want to briefly introduce Natasha. So Natasha Noorani, musician, ethnomusicologist, again, coming out of Pakistan's context. And I know you're also the creator of really the most beloved music festival in Pakistan as well. So hope to hear more about that. And then super delighted and honored to have Princess Vaishnavi here with us, founder of, and excuse me, Princess Vaishnavi, I know I'm going to mispronounce this, so I hope I can be a role model of like vulnerable learning, but I know you're the founder of Studio Kishangarh, and you're doing so much to keep the arts alive and really are a living link to all of our histories. So with that, I will stop talking and hand it over to you, Sona, and we'll give you all a 5-minute heads up before the end of our panel time. But thank you so much for waiting and for being here.
Thank you so much, Eva. That was really wonderful. And, you know, your smile is so infectious. And I think you've really set the pace for this second session. So thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for being a part of this panel today. I'm really excited to speak to each of you. You know, I was discussing your work with Ekta, reading up on all of you as well. And I'm so impressed, I'm so moved that she's put this together and that we can get the conversation going. And there's just so much to talk about. All of you have done so much vis-a-vis art and culture, vis-a-vis your careers. And it's so exciting. I know we've had a very difficult last year, which is seeping into this year, unfortunately. But I really do feel that the world is moving towards, you know, something better, hopefully, God willing. And how art and culture and our work is going to evolve, that is something that is super, super exciting. So whoever's on the panel today, I'd be really happy if you could just unmute your microphones, because I will be starting off with my first question for Sanya. Sanya, you here?
Yeah, Sonia, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good, Sanya. I'm aware of your work. I remember a couple of years ago when Diva'ni launched its boutique in Lahore. I'm from Lahore, and a lot of my friends would frequent and continue to frequent the boutique. And I remember at that time I was writing about fashion. I'm an art and culture journalist, so I found it so unique and exciting that there was this Indian fashion label in the heart of Lahore, and it was very exciting about this cross-border retail thing that was happening. So my first question for you, Sanya, is as the creative director of Diva'ni, tell me a little bit, have there been any challenges vis-a-vis cross-border retail? Like, how are you bringing stuff to Pakistan, given the entire trade ban, etc.? Have there been any road bumps,
So,
currently?
Sonia, I think overall, over the past, we're in our fourth year of operations in Pakistan,
Hmm.
and we've been welcomed very, very warmly by the audiences, and it was a surprise for me as well because I really was very, very scared initially. But I think two things have played a very, very important role. One, the whole essence of the brand, which is about preserving the craft, the culture and the couture of the shared subcontinent. I think
Ji.
the audiences could resonate very well with the brand at that because of that. The second is that our partners played very important role in establishing the brand in Pakistan because obviously the political climate does make a difference on the overall sentiment, not only the trade but also the sentiment becomes people are a little wary of um, wearing Indian couture per se, when the sentiment goes wrong. But I
Ji.
think we have been able to combat that very, very well. So while the trade ban did affect us largely, the custom solutions are provided to the consumer at the Lahore store as well. So
Hmm.
that really did not give us so much of an impact because export was banned from India at that point of time.
Ji.
uh, also for a very long time the stocks that were lying in the store was the only stocks that they could retail.
Wow.
So it did really affect, but we are coping up with the changes, we're coping up with with all of it, and it's
Yeah.
been phenomenal 4 years, so I don't think I have too much to complain.
Absolutely. And I hope things get better. And vis-a-vis the sentiment of wearing Indian fashion, I think Divani's clientele, honestly, they focus on the craft.
Yes,
Bollywood is so big in Pakistan. So,
yes,
and there's this mutual art and appreciation for art and culture, music.
yes.
There's no sort of animosity. There's complete, it's very free flowing and it's very,
Yes.
very exciting. Natasha, my question for you, Natasha, is you're one of the most well-known faces in the local music scene in Pakistan today. You're also the co-founder of one of the biggest and most well-known music festivals in the country. I remember, Natasha, there was a time when cross-border collaborations between Pakistani musicians and Indian musicians was really exciting. It was happening quite frequently, um, vis-a-vis Bollywood and other projects as well. Where do you see cross-border collaborations vis-a-vis music, Indo-Pak music? How do you see it rolling out in this current COVID world and, God willing, a post-COVID world?
It's a lovely question, and thank you for that introduction. It's wonderful to be in a space with so many excellent women. Thank you for having me. Um, so I feel I definitely up until the mid 2000s there was a lot of open collaboration taking place between Pakistani musicians and Indian musicians. One of the things that it always comes back to is that we all stem from the same music. You have this South Asian classical music is all pretty much the same, despite an arbitrary border put in between. And general styles have developed accordingly. So I feel that there is so much space on the classical spectrum because you have audiences on both sides of the border who are trying to kind of engage with one another, understand new techniques of recording, of producing, of performances even. So in that genre, there's always space to grow, because even now, what's wonderful is thanks to YouTube, thanks to just the internet providing so much access, my parents are constantly sending me WhatsApp links of great music that they found from 30 years ago, and vice versa of, just new Indian musicians taking on Pakistani songs and vice versa. So it's great to have that cultural connect, even if it's virtual. For the new music, I feel like it's interesting because we're all, there's an entire generation that's used to being online beyond even COVID restrictions. So I feel that there's definitely been a lot of growth, especially with independent music, so non-film and non-Bollywood and non-classical music. So everything that would come outside of that, I feel that there's so much space in terms of Pakistani musicians still get very excited when Rolling Stones India or different publications like Wild City are writing about us, because that provides us with a certain amount of legitimacy and also opens our music up to a wider audience, which is would find the same music palatable, right? Like music is one thing that transcends, social barriers, and most importantly, in this case, political barriers. And language is such a wonderful thing, because as was being discussed in the previous session, language, just the kind of the colloquial terms you're using, the kind of sounds you are drawn to, that while there are obviously sounds that certain regions would be more attuned to, it's very, you're more drawn to that as opposed to maybe listening to the Billboard Top 40. It's definitely something that resonates with the masses a lot more, because we know that in Pakistan, in Lahore, Karachi, wherever you are, even in the smallest of villages, the latest Bollywood songs, you'll find them on somebody's phone or their MP3 player. So distribution has not been a problem at all in terms of engaging Pakistani audiences with Indian music and content, and vice versa, I'm sure, because Coke Studio is one of your biggest exports across the border and into the world. And now there are a lot more corporate shows coming out, but even beyond that, a lot more independent music shows which are showcasing younger artists. So in terms of that, there was a recent compilation that was taken on by the name of Chalo HQ. So Chalo was a compilation of artists and their music from Pakistan, Kashmir, and India. And so this has been pressed on vinyl. This has been distributed everywhere. The proceeds for this, it's a charity album. So the proceeds for this are going to a charity in Pakistan and in India. So massive steps like this are being taken. And again, it's all virtual. It's all kind of being discussed over WhatsApp and Zoom sessions and beyond. So I think there's definitely in this generation a desire to transcend that and also tap into a newer audience. For me personally, when I'm writing in Urdu, I feel that doesn't need to be limited to a Pakistani audience, because it would be understood across the border, and beyond that, your diaspora communities around the world, the way that they collect based on the shared culture, the shared heritage that they have, music ends up being that source. So when you're listening to a song at a wedding, shadi songs are all pretty much the same. Every Pakistani wedding you go to, it's a top 10 list of all the best Indian songs that have come out, over the past 30 years, and vice versa. So that's the one thing where even if politics and your rage is running high and stress levels are high, you will rarely find a Pakistani wedding without Indian songs playing, no matter what the situation.
That's true.
So I feel that this is the key to unlocking a lot of pressure points, a lot of stress points, and because you're engaging on an intimate level when you're songwriting with someone, when you're collaborating across the border, everyone's got their tiny studio setups or big studio setups that they do. It would be great to see a world where we could tour India. Like, one of my dreams is to just do the Delhi, Jaipur, Agra triangle and just make that would be a dream come true, or to perform at any of the massive music festivals that are taking place. So and I know artists who have gone previously, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, to Magnetic Fields and a couple of other festivals, Pakistani artists in India. So everyone's hopeful. The good thing is that at least music can be shared across despite COVID or politics at this point. So I'm hoping that can be the nudge that opens the space up more. But there's definitely room for more collaboration, while there is already some wonderful collaborative pieces taking place right now.
I love that, Natasha. So well said. So well said. That fills me with so much hope and really excitement. Lovely. Anshu, we'll move on to you. I was watching one of your interviews on, it was a small clip of yours on Facebook, on your Facebook page, Royal Fables. And I just thought, what a lovely, humble, sweet woman. And she's done so much and she's so down to earth. You've been a journalist, you're in PR, you're a PR professional, you're an entrepreneur, and your platform, Royal Fables, is phenomenal. And I started reading about it. I started going through each season of the Royal Fable season. And I just thought, you know, something like this is what is needed in this day and age. Anshu, tell me one thing. You were part of this platform, Shane Pakistan, I think vis-a-vis PR, maybe I think 2 or 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Anshu,
right. Yeah.
Ji, bilkul. How important are platforms like yours, Royal Fables, Shane Pakistan, which shine the spotlight on the subcontinent's identity, history, heritage, and culture? How important are platforms like this, especially today?
They are extremely important, and not just today, they've been important always, because they are like bridges. They help you bridge cultures. I mean, you have Vaishnavi here, who's the Princess of Kishangarh. I mean, it was her father who actually first was my first window to the royal world, and how, you know, more than anything, the Indian royal families have been conservationists of culture, of craft, of cuisine, and how they are really icons of how you can, live within. So you'll have a girl coming from Odisha and get married in Kashmir, or a girl coming from Nepal and get married, in Odisha. So it's like even Vaishnavi is married in Gujarat and she's from Rajasthan, and
Ji.
so I think it teaches you how to coexist. It also gives you the importance of the rich cultural heritage of India, because for some reason we are only talking about yoga in India, or we are talking about Gandhi, or we are talking about socialism, or even when we give our Padma Bhushans and Padma Shris, we try and talk about only people who are social workers, or who but there are people who have created what I call artisanal luxury in India, and that's the royal families, and they continue to do that within their palaces. I mean, Vaishnavi has this beautiful place within her palace called Studio Kishangarh, where she's creating, recreating miniatures. Like that, there are so many stories which need to be told. Like Natasha just said that she'd love to come to the triangle. And I want to break that. I want her to go to Kishangarh. I want her to go to, smaller places where there's real culture, where there's, when they go to Jodhpur, I want them to go to Rohit, or to Bera and enjoy, So that's the whole thing of creating imagery for Royal India, which is a part of our culture, it's also a part of Pakistani culture. I mean, but it's totally forgotten, and it's pushed under the carpet by a socialist kind of a government.
Yes, absolutely. Well said, Ji. Bilkul. Speaking of Vaishnavi, Vaishnavi, you're an art curator and you're the founder of Studio Kishangarh. I came across an article of you featured on you and your husband and this glorious palace that you renovated. And what I found so beautiful about it is how it has the conventional and the contemporary. It has both vibes, and it was so beautifully done, the pictures. And I just thought, wow, I wish I could go, visit the palace, interview you and your husband. I wanted to ask you something. You're working with artists who, their craft, miniature art, has been passed on from generation to generation. It's an intergenerational thing. How difficult has it been, or on the flip side, has it been easy vis-a-vis trying to help further evolve this craft, primarily to give it longevity, to sustain it? Has it been difficult trying to evolve it?
So that's actually a very interesting question. So when I started the studio 10 years back, I faced tremendous, push and pull from the artists. So we had a group of artists then, and some of them were quite old.
and they were very set in their ways. So I think that gave me it made me realize that it's a very personal thing. So I think it depends on the artist. So I think the older generation was more rigid, in the sense they would not want to really explore different mediums. They wanted to still, stay in the same parameters that they were used to, because they thought this is the kind of respect is due to the art form. They were taught, as you said, it is intergenerational. And they've had this vocation in the family for generations. So, it was a respect for their, ancestors. Whereas the younger lot, I would say, is, they are more open to exploring, and I think they have more exposure as well. So it's, I think it's a fine line. Sometimes, it depends from the current group of artists I have are very, very sort of radical. They're ready to explore anything, and we do we do really large miniatures are supposed to be small size, right? I mean, they're not really miniatures, but they're at least a page size. But
Yes.
this group of artists are ready to explore, huge canvases. We do 7 feet, 8 feet, canvases and things like that. So, it's fun, but I miss that, those fights I had with the older lot, who are currently, because of COVID and stuff, they're not, working, because they're at home and stuff. So I miss that, sort of thing, push and pull that we used to have. And I think it depends again and again. And I think by now, because we've had this the art studio running for 10 years, there is a sense of respect. So now they realize that patronage can come in all forms and sizes, and it can be a 20 or a 30-year-old woman who comes and tells you what she would like. And this is the fun of working with artists, because they understand the patronage is what is needed to inject new blood in
Absolutely.
the art form.
Absolutely. And Vaishnavi, it's like you approach them with that respect, you're respecting their art form. So they know that you're coming from a good place, and you're helping them survive their craft and sustain it. Wanted to ask you something. Given Mughal miniature art, this art form goes back centuries. I think the ninth century it originated, I think, I'm not sure, or beyond that. And given, the artists on both sides of the border, they are pushing the envelope. They are trying to, bring something new to this art form. Vaishnavi, in your point of view, how can Pakistani and Indian artists, miniature artists, collaborate, and primarily to sustain the craft and also for business opportunities? How could we make it work?
So, as as you said, the Mughal form of art, right? So I would say that, it all, I think it is the interaction between the two Persian artists that Humayun brought in the 16th century, who came to, let's say they were in Akbar's atelier, and they interacted with the local, artists, and they produced this fantastic, art that we see today, the Mughal miniatures, where they started from, and it completely changed miniature paintings in India. So there is this sense of, there's always been, for the past few centuries, there's always been collaborations. It is not what we view India today. We have a very sort of shuttered view of what it should be. We are taught things in history books, and we are told things which is not what it was. Centuries
Yes.
ago, our borders were fluid. We had, things coming from China, from Japan. You can see different forms of art. So I think, keeping that in mind, I feel this is a discussion that really needs to be done, because I think there's fantastic work happening in Pakistan, where as far as miniatures are concerned, I think they're at a level that we are not at in India. We have people like, Qureshi, you have Pakistani artists who are, of international acclaim. And in India, we're just stuck, and I feel there's a lot we can learn. And that starts with education. I think we need to have exposure on both sides of the border. I think we need to start learning about what contemporary miniature art is on both sides. And that will only happen if we have exhibitions in our leading institutes, art institutes, or we have in our schools and colleges, art colleges, we have courses that teach what is happening. Because it's only when I went to England that I really understood what is happening in Pakistan. In back home, no one really, it's not really talked about. You can Google it, and you can find out, but it's not there in the curriculum. So I think education is important. And secondly, I feel we need to open a dialogue, and probably start like an art festival, where we get people from both sides of the border, and we collaborate. Let's get like a pichwai artist from Nathdwara, and let's get somebody from a miniature expert who does let's get paintings on falcons and birds, and let's get them together and see what we can make. But we need to have those things
Wow.
open to get there, which is just, I think, it's I guess
Yeah.
it'll be difficult, but we all need to sort of get it done, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. Dream big. And I was just thinking about an artist residency in your
Okay.
palace. My God, that would be a dream, and then you guys could come here, God willing, really, fingers crossed. But Reema, my next question is for you. Reema, your book, Historic Temples in Pakistan, A Call to Conscience. First of all, I think it is a very important book, and hats off to you for documenting this and also, working with such a wonderful photographer, the late Madiha Ijaz.
Yeah.
It is such a beautiful book, and thank you so much for researching, writing, and compiling it. Reema, my question for you is, in this day and age particularly, how important are books such as yours in documenting our shared heritage and identity?
Basically, I think that this book, just to begin with, where this book sort of how it came about was, it was produced at a time where Pakistan was particularly troubled. So, and we were going through a pretty uh, very sort of uh, it was a time of great upheaval, and you were losing a lot of people to extremists, etc. So this was an attempt to basically talk about the the futility of this, how the supremacy of a singular faith is completely, just not for a region like this. And secondly, I wanted to trace our roots, which this book has um, uh, some of the most ancient sites in the world and some in the region. For example, in Karachi alone, we have a temple which is over 1500 years old. So we it was yes, and so there was tremendous research. It was a labor of love, actually. It was like as Madhya used to put it, it was like a guerrilla kind of a project, because uh, basically very little funding, total labor of love, getting into a car and traveling from the depths of Sindh and Thar to all the way to the mountains. So it was just like that, no security. I mean, we were just um, you know running around and dealing with that, and it left us with some amazing memories of the basic pluralism that exists in our people, how united people are, how they are, it's these kind of questions are more political than societal. Societies, this taught us so much, and now I can sadly just speak for myself. It taught us so much. Places like, say, Peshawar, in 2014, 2013, 2015, it was just seen as the city of absolute bloodbaths and mayhem. And we actually went there and stayed there, and we covered, and they had this entire region which is called the Kali Badi, right? And it's where the Kali temple is, and opposite is a Shiva temple, and so it was just really beautiful. And they all communities live there, whether it's Sikhs, Muslims, and and Hindus, and they don't think of each other with a, any kind of a religious identity. So basically, this is these are some of the things that taught us so much about our own country. We didn't know this, and and then when we went to Balochistan, where there is the Hinglaj Dharti, as it's called. It's one of the Shakti Peeths in the religion, and it's a major yatra site, right? So over there, I mean, they stopped us at the check post, and they said that, where are you going? And we basically said we're going to the temple area, and officers at the check post said it's known as Nani ka mandir, a grandmother's mandir. So they said that, Nani ko hamara salam dijega. So these are little bits which tell you that it's a whole other world in there. And secondly, I wanted to make this one particular point. We here, I mean, this entire, I mean, I really admire Ekta and her team and Anshu for sort of bringing us all together to finally have a dialogue after such a long gap. What we don't realize is that there is such, fear for no reason. Otherwise, these dialogues were like, would happen twice a week at least, and we would come and go, and we shared so much. And Vaishnavi ji made some incredible points about artists, and so our artists were participating in India Art Fair. We were all going to the literature festivals, and Shane Pakistan, as you said, so Anshu knows so many people here, and so yeah, and speaking for myself, I mean, most of my family is there. I have some amazing friends there. So basically, it's all come to this giant halt and so I really commend this effort. That it's a big step in once again in that direction. I believe that it's time now to think that of ourselves as citizens of this region. Of course, we all love and respect the sovereignty of our states, but it's time for us to see this is we are talking as citizens of of this region, and also we're trying to promote this as a region. Unless we do that, we will not be able to make those borders relatively fluid again, right? I'm not saying porous, I'm using fluid very, very consciously, because all my life, we were able to get visas and move forward and all that, but now what's happening these days is that we talk on terms of religious tourism, or religious, everything related to one another's religion, and how religion friendly we are. However, my question is, this region is about being people friendly. That's the history, and that's the love, and that's where the roots lie, you see. And it's supposed to be emotion friendly. So when I see some wonderful, very entertaining movies, some very good sort of depiction of what's happening in Pakistan. What the one thing that has crept in very, very sort of in a very surreptitious manner, I should say, is that when you see the portrayal of a Pakistani woman, see in a particular woman, in a particular movie, or in any other context other than books. You see, I mean, I actually don't recognize them as from my country, or from Pakistan. And Anshu is somebody who's very, very familiar with society here, and they to me are alien when they're shown on screen, because everyone in India has seen our serials. Some groundbreaking work is running on Z5, such as Churels and and all that. So which my friend Mehdi Par, the star, will talk on another panel about. But it's yeah. So when I see this depiction, it's actually very it's sort of kind of reconfiguring the image in the mind of the common man or woman, right? So and that didn't exist before. So we have to change that. We really have to work very hard to change the fact that Pakistani women and men are not Afghan, they're not Saudi, and so we're what you see in Khan Market. We're what you see, and so this is a lovely region of many pockets where you have where every 100 miles cultures change, and it's the same all over the place, whether it's Bangladesh, whether it's India, whether it's Pakistan, Sri Lanka, wherever. So customs change.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't mean that we're Saudi,
Yeah.
My second book was on Ajmer Sharif, in fact. That again is in a way a sequel to on the same lines, because extremists or the Wahhabis or however you want to see, they want to completely stifle or negate the existence and importance of Sufism, and I'm a and I believe that that's a great cohesive force, not just in its philosophy, but also as places of catharsis for a deeply, you know, uh, deeply conflicted, fractured society, which is poor, which is ridden with problems. So these places serve as those safety valves that a society needs, So, and also they're inclusive.
Correct. Thank you, Ekta. It just goes to show how much we have to talk about. Really, I only just scratched the surface. I wish this could go on for another 2 hours. Really, it's so enriching, this conversation, and I hope, God willing, we can have a part 2. But I just want to quickly go to Avni. So basically, the Conflictorium Museum was established to shine the spotlight on social issues and kind of dismantle the narrative through art, through dance. I saw your personal website, beautifully done, by the way. It's so interactive. I was completely mesmerized. And then I read an article about you and your work in livemint.com, and it was so beautifully written, and it just captured your essence. I wanted to ask you, Avni, towards the end, do you think your work, in your opinion, right now, has worked and sort of in changing the dialogue or changing the narrative and opening the dialogue on the issues that you're talking about and highlighting?
That is a question I really struggle with perpetually, and I struggle to answer it on every front. And I partly because when we start talking of change making processes in narratives that are difficult narratives, we don't stay to see how our work changed anything. So we do as artists, we do in good faith. The Museum of Conflict was opened in Ahmedabad in 2013. Now, Ahmedabad is in Gujarat, in India, in the Indian Gujarat. I know that there are two. Gujarat has, over the last 20 years, in a sense, been a certain kind of epicenter of political imagination. And not only in the last 20 years, if we think sort of a little more carefully, then it has been the epicenter of a lot of kind of political imaginations over the decades. Now, within these imaginations, what has become distinctly not possible is dialogue. Is because we have imagined that conflict is a bad thing, and as a response, as almost a corporeal response of the body, we shove conflict under the carpet, let it ferment, and then it ferments and comes out in forms of violence. Now, my position on conflict is that we are not going to manage a conflict-free society. And that's probably not even the point. I often think of conflict as a sign that we are a living culture, that we're breathing and thinking and making, and therefore there will be conflict. But whether as a culture, and maybe this is a good time to think of the region as sort of, and I don't mean to say a homogeneous culture, but as a people, whether we are equipped with conflict resolution. So yes, there is conflict, but can we talk through our conflict? Can we make art through our conflict? Can we dance through our conflict? Can we do these things and sort of not choose the route of violence, which is the easiest way, in fact, and this is the way we have chosen for years on end. So the Museum of Conflict actually only lays bare this very human tendency of being a violent, sort of having a violent core that we need to learn through. So, for example, things like it poses questions like whether the ideas of citizenship and democracy are innate or whether we need to learn them. Democracy is learned behavior. And we have very little things around us teaching us democracy every single day. In fact, we have everything eroding more of it. We are unlearning democracy every day. So whether the museum has a particular kind of impact within the city, within the kind of conversations it can raise, I can't say yet. But I can say that it has sort of snowballed a certain kind of conversation within the city of where is the address to somehow speak, where is this kind of safe space or maybe not so safe space, because safe spaces have now become simply notional. We do.
My God, yes.
I also think the notions of fixed institutions I don't understand them. We've been told always that institutions are so grand and they must remain perennial.
Absolutely.
I somehow don't feel like subscribing to it. It's nicer to think of institutions as human and human change. And so maybe the Museum of Conflict will also change.
Absolutely. Also, I was reading up, you, I think, received a scholarship or an award or something a few months ago, I think late last year.
Yeah.
So congratulations on that. What's that all about? If you can just tell us towards the end.
There is something called the Vera List Center at the New School in New York, which is called the Jane Lombard Prize for Art and Social Justice, and they do this every year. So for the year 2022, they awarded the Conflictorium with the prize. So it was quite. We always thought that the kind of work that we do, we'll only find the trolls and the juta. हमने कभी सोचा था कि हमको कभी award भी मिलेगा. So it was quite surprising, and we were grateful.
No, but your work is resonating, and I think really. So much thought goes into it, and just hearing you speak, it makes so much sense because you're so cerebral. And the point you just mentioned about conflict being, to think that we could never have conflict in our societies, in our countries, is utopian. It's part and parcel of our existence, unfortunately. But thank you so much, Avni. That was wonderful. Wonderful speaking to you. Thank you to all my guests. Thank you to Ekta for putting this together. I really would want to speak to all of you at some point again, and I really hope we can collaborate in the future. Dancers, singers, musicians, artists, you name it. I really, really hope there comes a time where borders, so to speak, are broken and we have that free-flowing art and culture exchange. I think it's so imperative. It has to be done in a big way because I really do feel both sides of the borders are they want it. There's this urgency to know and to understand, to reconnect and to bond again, because like Moni Mohsin was rightly saying in the previous session, we are one people, and that's something that one takes away from sessions like this. Thank you so much again. I am moved, I'm inspired, I am so impressed by the work you're doing, and I know it's been a very tough year, but things will get better. And really, thank you so much once again. Ekta, over to you.
From here, thank you so much, everybody. Brilliant conversation. I think Eva will take over now.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I would just be echoing everything that you said, Sonya. And thank you so much, Sonya, also for pulling out, this conversation. And yeah, I'm quite excited about a few of the ideas that you each mentioned, and it seems like there are buds of future flowers, just between you all as well as everyone here in the room. So thank you so much.